In this section of the video, we'll go over how to submit a Hussmann warranty claim using the Tavant Warranty Management System. To start a new claim, find the Go To section of the home screen and click on Create Claim. Notice a new tab will be opened in the header labeled New Claim. Under the Servicing Location section, you'll notice that your account name and default payment remittance address, labeled as Servicing Location, are already selected. If your account has multiple remittance addresses or servicing locations, this field will be blank and you will need to choose one from the Servicing Location drop-down menu. Completing the General Information section will officially begin the claim submission process. Before we continue, notice that the Equipment Claim Type is selected by default in the Claim Type field. It's important to note that there are two different types of Hussmann warranty claims: equipment and field modification. The equipment claim type can be considered the normal claim type and should be used for the majority of your Hussmann warranty claims. Clicking the drop-down menu will show the other claim type, called field modification. Field modifications are special claims that are used when proactive servicing is deemed necessary for a specific group of equipment. A field modification bulletin will be issued by Hussmann Corporation with a specific field modification number to participating service providers and contractors. These parties will be requested by Hussmann representatives to complete the work under the Field Modification Bulletin guidelines. In other words, unless you're specifically notified by Hussmann representatives that the work your technicians performed was part of a field modification campaign, please use the equipment claim type for all warranty claims. The process of submitting a field modification claim will be covered in a separate training video featured on the Hussmann website. For now, let's continue submitting this claim under the equipment claim type. With the correct claim type now selected, we'll continue to complete the General Information section. Enter the work order or invoice number of the work order or invoice that you're basing your claim on in the appropriate field. Please note that at the end of your claim, you will be attaching a copy of this invoice or work order to the claim, so this number should reference the document that you're attaching. Next, enter the date of failure and date of repair fields. You can use the drop-down menu to display a calendar that will allow you to easily select these dates. Use the left and right arrows to select months within the current year, or use the month drop-down to select from a list. Years can be selected at the bottom of the calendar. When you've gotten the correct month and year, simply select the date from within the calendar and the date will populate in the field. Hussmann warranty policies differ depending upon the equipment, so a valid serial number is required for every warranty claim to ensure the correct policy is applied. If a single unit of Hussmann equipment was worked on, you begin to type the serial number in this field. Notice that when you begin to enter the number, a list will begin to populate based on your input. You may either manually complete the field or select the number from the list when you notice it in the dropdown. With your valid serial number in the serial number field, you're now ready to continue with your claim. Click the Continue button to be taken to the next part of the claim submission process. If you have multiple serial numbers to include in your claim, please proceed to the next section of the video. If not, you can skip the following instructions on how to include multiple serial numbers on a claim and proceed to the claim submission section of this video. If multiple units were serviced, all serial numbers of the affected equipment must be recorded on the claim. To include multiple serial numbers on a claim, click the Multiple Serial Numbers link. This screen will allow you to search for your serial numbers using several parameters. In order to include multiple serial numbers on a claim, the equipment must be of the same model, manufacturing year, and customer or store location. If your serial numbers do not meet these requirements, separate claims will need to be submitted. The total dollar amount of the separated claims would then be a sum of the total dollar amount of your invoice or work ticket. For reference, here are some examples of Hussmann's current serial number nomenclature. There are many parameters to use on this screen when searching, but the easiest way is to begin typing the similar characters between your serial numbers. Let's use these 3 serial numbers as an example. Start by typing the similar characters, so all the way up to the second 8 in our example serial numbers. Now click Search. A list will then populate with all equipment that contains these values. You'll see that our example numbers are shown in the highlighted areas here. To select them, click the check boxes to the left of the number. Next, click the Select button to include these numbers on your claim. When we do this, however, we're given an error message in red that tells us that these numbers are not able to be featured on the same claim as they do not meet the requirements discussed earlier. To continue with our tutorial, however, let's instead use these new serial numbers as an example. Like we did before, start by entering the similar characters in the serial number field and click Search when done. Check the boxes next to each of the numbers and then click the Select button. We're now taken back to the new claim screen, and we can see that all of our serial numbers now appear on the claim. To proceed to the next part of the claim, click the Continue button. We're now ready to continue with the claim submission process. In the previous section of the video, we selected our serial number and filled out some general information. With that completed, we're ready to include the labor and material charges and ultimately submit this claim for review. The first thing you'll notice are the blue headers in the claim submission form. Like many other headers featured in Savant, these can be collapsed and expanded if needed by clicking on them. You'll also notice the servicing location and general information sections that we completed earlier. You can make revisions to these sections if needed while in this part of the claim. Beneath this is the End Customer section, which will display the information for either the store or storage facility that the equipment was originally shipped to. The Comments section marks the next section of the claim that you will need to complete. Here you will notice there are 2 fields, Failure and Repair Description and the additional claim notes. Failure and repair description is relatively straightforward. Here we ask that you provide a description of what the root failure was that led to the equipment being serviced, as well as a description of the work that was performed. As an example, we'll provide some notes here. The failure and repair description is a mandatory field, meaning that the claim cannot be submitted without this information, and an error message will be displayed upon submission if left blank. Next is the additional claim notes. This field is not mandatory and can remain blank upon claim submission. This field can be treated as optional notes that you wish to leave for the processor who will be reviewing your claim. Though not mandatory, this field is useful for including supplemental information for the work that was performed. For example, the claim we're working on now is for the replacement of a failed compressor. In regard to compressor claims, the serial numbers of both the old and new compressors must be provided in order to have the claim reviewed. The additional claim notes section is where you would include this information. As an example, we'll include a sample here. Additionally, if you know that someone from Hussman was involved with this service work in any way, it would be a good idea to mention them in these comments in case the claim processor needs to contact them. With the comments section filled, we'll move to the Invoice itemization section where all monetary charges can be applied to the claim. Before we continue, keep in mind that the goal is to have the dollar amount of your claim exactly match the dollar amount of your invoice or work ticket it is based on. Once you finish completing all sections of the claim, you will be given a chance to review the final amount before submission and make any revisions in the event that the totals do not match. Let's take a quick look at the invoice itemization columns before we complete this section. Category denotes the type of charge, and quantity is used to show how many of those charges there were. Additional info description is used to further clarify what the charge is. This is not a mandatory field and will not impede a claim submission, but it is helpful to the processors reviewing the claims if any valuable information is listed here. Price rate denotes the unit cost of the charge. The amount column is automatically calculated by the product of the price and rate and quantity fields, so no user input is required here. Some category charges, such as purchase parts, miscellaneous parts, and taxes, will allow you to add multiple line items under a single category using the Add Row button in the Add Delete Row field. We'll showcase the functionality of this button shortly when we fill out the invoice itemization section. Lastly, the buttons featured in the Clear Row column will clear out all user input in that row. Now that we know how this section of the claim works, let's fill out some of the fields and continue with the claim. Our mock invoice includes 3 charges for purchase parts, so we'll need to include some additional rows for this category using the Add Row button. To add a row to a category, simply click on the button. You'll notice a new row has been nested underneath its parent row. The category field will not be able to be edited, so it's important to include what this charge is detailing in the additional info description field. Let's continue to list our additional purchase part charges. If you need to remove one of the rows you added, just click the red X featured in the Add Delete Row column. Please note that clicking the red X removes only the item for that row. Clicking the Clear Row button for that category removes all line items in the category. Let's continue filling out the invoice itemization section. Once all applicable fields have been completed, check the amount displayed in the Claim Amount field. As mentioned earlier, this should match the total of your invoice or work ticket. If it doesn't, please review the invoice itemization section of the claim for accuracy. You will still have a chance to verify the total amount of the claim before submission. Finally, the last section of the claim is Manage Warranty Documents. This is where you will attach your supporting claim documents, such as your invoice or work ticket, technician's notes or service tickets, receipts for parts over $50, copies of emails if applicable, and anything else you would like a processor to have while reviewing your claim. To attach documents to your claim, click the Attach button. You may attach up to 5 files to a claim, and each file must not exceed 10 megabytes in size. When all of your files have been selected, click the Attach button on the bottom left. Now that the claim form has been completed, now would be a good time to save your claim. Notice the 3 action buttons at the bottom of the page below the Manage Warranty Documents section: Delete, Save, and Validate. If you find that you need to delete a draft claim, click the Delete button. You will be prompted to confirm this action before the claim is officially deleted. The Save button will save the draft claim in its current state. This includes all the completed fields above and the attached documents below. So let's save our claim now just to see how it works. Notice the message in green text at the top of the page that confirms the claim has been saved successfully. Now let's close our unfinished draft claim. Now that we're back on the home screen, we can see that we have a new draft claim in the Draft Claim Action folder. After opening up the draft folder, we see the claim that we've been working on is stored here. Double-click the claim to jump back into the claim and continue working. As a tip, try to save your claim every now and then when you think of it. It's not necessary for claim submission, but it's helpful in the event that you lose internet connection or an unforeseen error occurs. That way, your claim progress stays intact and you won't have to worry about filling out the fields over again. Now it's time to finally submit this claim for review. Scroll down to the bottom of the page and click the Validate button. If you've forgotten to provide information for a mandatory field or attach a document, you'll receive a red error message that lets you know what you need to provide. If you're prompted with that error message, just click the Edit Claim button that appears below the message to go back to the claim form and make the suggested revisions. The Payment Information section gives you a summary of the charges associated with your claim. This should be identical to the claim amount field that we saw in the invoice itemization section earlier in the video. Take this time to verify that the amount of your claim matches the amount of your invoice work ticket. If everything looks good, click the radio button at the bottom of the page that reads I accept. You'll now see a new button appear that says Submit Claim. Click the Submit Claim button to finish. You're then presented with a message stating that your claim has now been submitted for review and given an official claim number. For reference, all Hussmann warranty claim numbers begin with the HUS- nomenclature. Now that you're familiar with submitting the equipment type claims, the next section of this video will cover the less common field modification claim. After serial numbers have been included, the claim submission process is identical for both equipment and field modification claims, so this video can be referenced if you need to familiarize yourself with the submission procedure. Thank you for viewing.